Welcome, dear friend, to Monk's Temple. Find a comfortable place to rest. Perhaps you're settling in for the night, or maybe you're seeking a moment of calm in a busy day. Wherever you are, let your body relax. Feel the weight of yourself supported by the chair, the floor, the earth beneath you. Let your eyes grow soft, or close them gently. For the next while, we are going on a journey, not to a distant land, but to the most intimate and uncharted territory that exists. The landscape of your own being when you are peacefully, consciously, alone. In the gentle wisdom of Buddhism, solitude is never seen as punishment or lack. It is recognized as fertile ground. The Buddha himself, Prince Siddhartha, walked away from a life of immense sensory pleasure and constant companionship to sit alone beneath a tree. In that profound and unwavering solitude, he didn't find emptiness. He found everything. He discovered the root of suffering and the path to its end. He didn't need an audience for his awakening. He needed the sacred space that only solitary contemplation could provide. Your journey into being comfortably alone is, in its own beautiful way, a walking of that same noble path. It is not about becoming a hermit, but about becoming whole. Let's begin with a simple image. Imagine a garden. Not a grand, public park, but a small, walled garden that belongs only to you. For years, perhaps, you've only seen this garden from a high window, noting its general shape, seeing the blur of colors from the flowers. You've been busy in the house of your life, the house of work, of relationships, of obligations. The garden was always there, but it was background. Choosing to spend meaningful time alone is like finally deciding to step outside. You open the door, walk down the stone path, and stand in the very center of your own green space. The air smells different here. Of damp soil and blooming things. The light falls differently. This is your inner world, your private ecosystem of thoughts, feelings, memories, and dreams. When you are constantly with others, you are navigating the shared house. Solitude invites you into the garden. At first, it might feel unfamiliar. The silence can be startling. You might notice the urge to go back inside, to turn on some noise, to call someone. This is natural. We are conditioned to fear the quiet because we confuse it with loneliness. But in the Buddhist view, silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of a deeper listening. It is the space in which the subtle, true notes of your own life can finally be heard. This garden has been growing without your full attention for years. Some plants are overgrown. Some flowers are blooming brilliantly in hidden corners. There might be a patch that feels untended, wild. This is all perfect. This is what is real. The first act of courage is simply to stand there and look around without immediately wanting to change anything. I remember a time when I first truly understood this. I was living in a small city apartment, and my life was a symphony of deadlines and social commitments. I was surrounded by people, yet I felt a strange, persistent hollowness. One weekend, every plan canceled. I faced 2 empty days with a sense of dread. The first few hours were agony. I paced. I cleaned things that were already clean. But eventually, I just sat down on my sofa, with nothing to do. I watched the afternoon light move across the wall. I listened to the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of traffic that sounded like ocean waves. And slowly, something settled. It was as if the frantic version of me, the one who was always managing my life, simply exhaled and dissolved. What was left was just awareness. A calm, open awareness that watched the light, heard the sounds, felt the breath in my lungs. In that simple, unplanned solitude, I wasn't doing anything, but I felt more authentically myself than I had in months. I had, without knowing it, stepped into my garden. And I found it was not a scary place, but a deeply peaceful one. That experience was my first real taste of mindfulness, of being present with what is, which is the very heart of the Buddha's teaching. This is the invitation of part 1, to see your time alone not as empty time to be filled, but as rich space to be entered. It is an opportunity to transition from being a perpetual host in the house of your life, to being a curious and kind visitor in your own inner garden. You don't need to weed or plant just yet. You only need to show up. To be present. To notice. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes from our resistance to the present moment, from our craving for it to be different. Solitude, when approached with intention, teaches us to stop resisting. It teaches us to let the moment be exactly as it is, and in doing so, we discover that within it is a profound sense of okayness, of sufficiency. So, for now, just imagine that garden. Know that it is there, within you, always accessible. It is your sanctuary. Its quiet is not a void, but a womb. Its solitude is not abandonment, but homecoming. This is the foundational truth we will build upon. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and the journey to profound inner peace begins with the simple, brave act of closing the door to the busy house and stepping out into your own silent, waiting space. If this notion of discovering a sanctuary within your own quiet feels like a path you wish to explore further, I warmly invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. Think of it as a gentle companion on the journey, a soft bell reminding you to visit your garden when the world grows loud. Our exploration has only just begun. Let us continue our walk in the garden. You've stepped outside, you've taken a few breaths of that different air. The initial strangeness is fading, replaced by a growing awareness of the space around you. But now, as you stand in the quiet, another sensation may arise. It can feel like a chill in the warm air, like a shadow passing over the sun. It is a feeling we have all been taught to dread, to avoid at all costs. Its name is loneliness. In our world, loneliness is treated as a social failure, a personal flaw, a dark signal that something is wrong. Our instant reaction is to eradicate it. To text a friend, to scroll through feeds, to turn on a screen and fill the space with any voice but our own. But what if we have misunderstood this guest entirely? The wisdom of Buddhism offers us a radically different perspective. It asks us not to run from this feeling, but to turn toward it. Not as a victim, but as a host. The Buddha's core teaching on impermanence, anicca, applies to all phenomena, including our emotions. Loneliness is not a solid, permanent state. It is a passing weather system in the vast sky of your mind. Think of it not as a stain on your soul, but as a cloud. It has arrived. It will, in time, drift on. The suffering comes not from the cloud's presence, but from our reaction to it. We shake our fists at the sky. We build a roof over our heads and hide, believing the sun is gone forever. We tell ourselves a story, I am lonely, which feels like an immutable truth. But what if we changed the sentence? What if we said, with gentle curiosity, loneliness is here? This simple shift in language creates a world of space. It moves you from being identified with the feeling to being the aware space that holds the feeling. You are no longer the cloud, you are the sky. This is the essence of mindfulness, a central pillar of Buddhist practice. You are learning to observe your experience without getting swept away by it. In your solitude, you have the perfect, undisturbed laboratory to practice this. So, when the chill of loneliness comes, see if you can pause. Don't reach for the phone. Don't judge yourself. Simply feel it. Where do you feel it in your body? Is it a hollow ache in the chest? A tightness in the throat? A heavy weight on the shoulders? Just notice. Give it your full, compassionate attention for just a few breaths. You are not trying to fix it or make it go away. You are simply saying, I see you. You are welcome here. This is how you meet the lost child of your own heart. I want to share a story about a man named Thomas. Thomas was a dedicated high school teacher, beloved by his students and colleagues. He lived a full, socially active life. But when he retired, the structure vanished, and the invitations became less frequent. He found himself in his quiet apartment for long stretches, and a deep, aching loneliness settled in. It felt like proof that he was no longer useful, no longer loved. One particularly difficult evening, he did something unusual. Instead of turning on the television to drown out the feeling, he went to his desk, took out a pen and paper, and wrote at the top of the page, "A letter to my loneliness." He began to write. "Dear loneliness, you feel so heavy tonight. You make me feel old and forgotten," he wrote for pages, not holding back. He described the sensation, the memories it triggered, the fears it whispered. And as he wrote, something shifted. The feeling began to separate from him. It became an object of his observation, not the definition of his being. By the end of the letter, he found himself writing, "Thank you for showing me how much I valued connection. Thank you for reminding me that I am a person who loves, and therefore can feel loss. You are not my enemy. You are a message." Thomas had done a profound thing. He had practiced metta, loving kindness, toward his own difficult emotion. He had befriended the shadow in his garden. From that day, the loneliness didn't disappear, but its power did. It became a teacher, not a tormentor. This is the practice. From the spacious awareness of your garden, you can extend compassion inward. You can use the beautiful phrases of metta meditation, first for yourself, "May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. May I be happy." You are offering warmth to the shivering guest. Then, you can extend that wish outward, "May all those who feel this way be safe, be peaceful, be free from suffering, be happy." In this practice, a miracle occurs. Your lonely heart becomes a conduit for universal compassion. You realize your feeling connects you to the countless other hearts feeling the same way in that very moment. Your isolation becomes the seed of profound connection. Loneliness, when met with this kind of courageous, gentle attention, often reveals its secret message. It is rarely saying, "You need more people around you." It is often saying, "You have abandoned yourself. You are not keeping yourself company." It points to the places where you are not present for your own life, where you are seeking outside yourself for the validation, comfort, or distraction that you have the capacity to provide yourself. Your solitude is the training ground for becoming your own best friend, your own most compassionate companion. So, in your garden, when the shadow falls, remember Thomas. Remember that you are the sky, not the cloud. You are the host, not the hostage. Bow to your loneliness. Offer it a seat. Listen to what it has to say. You may be surprised to find that behind its cold exterior, it carries a gift. The gift of self-intimacy, the gift of boundless compassion, the gift of realizing that in the depths of your own heart, you are never, ever truly alone. Let's continue our exploration. The garden is becoming more familiar. You've learned to stand in its quiet, and you've begun to meet its passing shadows with a host's grace, not a fugitive's fear. Now, let's look down. Feel the ground beneath your feet in this inner sanctuary. It is not just dirt, it is living soil. And from this soil, something vital is growing, your roots. This is the art of inner reliance, of building a stability within yourself that is independent of the changing weather outside the garden walls. In Buddhism, the Buddha's last words were a profound instruction: be islands unto yourselves, be your own refuge. He did not say this to promote isolation, but to instill ultimate spiritual resilience. Before you can be a safe harbor for others, you must become your own. Before you can offer unshakable peace, you must find the unshakable within. This is not the brittle independence of, I don't need anyone, which is often fear in disguise. This is the mature, gentle, and powerful reliance on your own innate capacity for wisdom, for peace, for navigating life. It is the difference between a sapling, easily blown over, and an ancient tree, whose deep roots allow it to bend gracefully in the fiercest storm. Your time alone is when these roots grow deepest. It is when you learn to be your own source. This starts in the most practical ways. Preparing a simple, nourishing meal for yourself becomes a sacred act of self-care, not a chore. You are honoring the temple of your body. Tending to your living space becomes a practice of mindfulness, creating external order to support internal order. Managing your responsibilities, from paying bills to scheduling your time, becomes a lesson in integrity. You are making a covenant with yourself and keeping it. Each of these actions is a root filament pushing deeper into the soil of your self-trust. You are proving to yourself, through small, consistent actions, that you are capable, that you can provide for your own well-being. But the roots go beyond the practical. They reach into the emotional and spiritual earth. This is where you learn to be your own compassionate witness. When a wave of anxiety or sadness arises, you don't immediately seek to have it soothed by another. You learn to sit with it. You ask, what is this? Where do I feel it? You offer it the same metta, the same loving kindness, you practiced in part 2. You become your own wise counselor, your own comforting parent, your own steadfast friend. This is not about suppressing emotion, it's about developing the inner container that can hold all emotions without breaking. The Buddha taught that we suffer when we cling to pleasant feelings and resist unpleasant ones. Inner reliance is the capacity to hold both with equanimity, knowing both are visitors, not permanent residents. I knew a woman named Alara, a potter who lived alone in a cottage by the woods. Her life was a masterpiece of quiet self-reliance. She grew her vegetables, drew her water from a well, fired her kiln with wood she'd seasoned herself. One harsh winter, a blizzard cut off power and roads for a week. Friends in town worried, but when they could finally reach her, they found her not just well, but radiantly peaceful. Her pantry was stocked, her wood stove glowed, and she was contentedly reading by candlelight. The storm is out there, she said, gesturing to the white world beyond her window. In here, I have everything I need. She wasn't just speaking of supplies. She was speaking of an inner resourcefulness, a calm that was not contingent on external conditions. Ilara's life was a beautiful expression of the middle way, a life of deliberate simplicity and profound sufficiency. Her self-reliance was not a wall, it was a deep, nourishing root system that allowed her to be incredibly generous. She was always the first to share her harvest, to teach a skill, to offer her quiet cottage as a place of respite for others. Her strength was the foundation of her kindness. This is the beautiful truth about the roots you grow in solitude. They are not selfish. They are the prerequisite for selfless giving. A tree with shallow roots cannot offer strong branches for birds to nest in, nor broad shade for the weary. It is too busy trying to keep itself upright. Your inner reliance, your ability to find peace, stability, and sustenance within yourself, frees you from neediness. When you interact with others, you are not looking for them to complete you, to calm you, or to validate you. You come to them whole. And from that wholeness, you can offer pure companionship, love without strings, support without resentment. Your relationships cease to be transactions and become true communion. So, in your garden, tend to your roots. See the daily rituals of caring for your life not as mundane tasks, but as sacred practices in building inner fortitude. Each time you trust yourself to handle a difficult emotion, you grow a root. Each time you meet a practical challenge with calm competence, you grow a root. Each time you choose what is truly nourishing for you, you grow a root. These roots will anchor you through all of life's seasons. They will allow you to stand firm in your values, to bend without breaking in adversity, and to ultimately bloom with a generosity that is boundless because it flows from a source that never runs dry. This art of inner reliance transforms solitude from a state of being by yourself into the profound experience of being with yourself, fully, trustingly, peacefully. And from that unshakable inner ground, your entire life grows upward into the light. Now, let us explore another dimension of your garden. With your feet firmly rooted and your heart capable of holding all its weather, a new quality begins to permeate the air. It is a sense of spaciousness, of possibility. It feels like freedom. Not the frantic freedom of running away, but the profound, calm freedom of coming home to your own choices. This is the liberation that blooms from conscious solitude, the freedom to design a life that is authentically, unmistakably yours. Buddhism's ultimate goal is nirvana, liberation from the cycles of suffering and delusion. On a daily, practical level, this liberation often begins as freedom from the invisible scripts handed to us by family, culture, and our own past habits. When you are constantly surrounded by others, your choices are often a negotiation, a compromise, a reaction to someone else's needs or expectations. You live in the house of we, and its architecture was designed by committee. But in the quiet of your own garden, you hear a different voice. It is softer, but clearer. It is the voice of your own intuition, your own genuine preference, your own dharma, your unique path and purpose. This freedom manifests in the smallest of things. What do you truly want to eat, when no one else's taste matters? How do you wish to spend a free hour, when no one is watching or waiting? What music moves your soul when you don't have to consider if it will annoy a roommate? These are not trivial questions. They are the exercises through which you rebuild your relationship with your own desire, separate from the noise of external conditioning. The Buddha taught about right intention as part of the Noble Eightfold Path. In your solitude, you have the space to purify your intentions, to ensure they spring from wisdom and compassion, not from craving for approval or fear of judgment. Your daily rhythm becomes a personal liturgy. You can design a morning routine that genuinely nourishes you. Perhaps it includes silent meditation, a long walk, or writing in a journal. You can create an evening ritual that allows you to release the day and settle into restful peace. Your physical space becomes a canvas. It can be minimalist and serene, or vibrantly creative and eclectic. It is a direct reflection of your inner landscape, unedited. This autonomy in the small things builds a muscle of self-trust that empowers the big decisions, the career path you choose, the relationships you cultivate, the values you live by. You learn to consult your own inner compass, and you learn to trust its direction. I think of a man named Leo. For decades, Leo worked in a high-pressure finance career. He wore the suits, attended the dinners, and played the part perfectly. But he always felt like an actor in a play written by someone else. In his late 40s, he took a sabbatical, a deliberate period of extended solitude. In the silence, the facade began to crack. He started painting, messy, colorful, abstract pieces, something he'd loved as a boy but had been told was impractical. He spent days reading philosophy instead of market reports. He took long, aimless bike rides with no destination. When his sabbatical ended, he knew he could not go back to the old script. He left his career, moved to a smaller town, and now teaches art classes at a community center and sells his paintings online. His income is modest, but his eyes are alive. For the first time, he told me, my life on the outside matches who I am on the inside. I didn't find freedom by rebelling. I found it by finally listening in the quiet. The quiet told me who I was. Leo's journey is a powerful example of the Buddhist principle of svatantriya, self-powered freedom. His solitude was the crucible where his authentic self, long suppressed, could finally emerge and direct his life. This freedom also transforms your connections with others. You no longer maintain friendships from habit or loneliness. You consciously choose people whose spirits resonate with yours. Your social interactions become rich and intentional because you come to them as a complete person, offering companionship, not seeking completion. You are free to set boundaries that protect your peace, and free to offer generosity from a place of genuine abundance, not obligation. So, in your garden, appreciate this unfolded map. You are the cartographer. Experiment. Try the hobby that has always intrigued you. Create the daily rhythm that fits your soul's tempo. Decorate your space with what brings you joy. This is the practice of living from the inside out. It is the embodiment of the Buddha's teaching to be a lamp unto yourself. Your solitude provides the oil for that lamp, and your authentic choices are its steady, guiding flame. From this place of inner-directed freedom, your life becomes not a performance, but a genuine, unrepeatable work of art. Let's find a place to sit in your garden now. Perhaps there's a simple bench, or a smooth stone, or just a soft patch of grass. Sit down. Feel the solid support beneath you. Now, let your awareness settle, like dust in a sunbeam, gently drifting down to rest. We are moving from the active cultivation of roots and freedom to a more receptive state, the art of finding peace not by doing, but by being. This is the heart of mindfulness, the practice of anchoring yourself so fully in the present moment that the noise of past regrets and future anxieties simply falls away, leaving a profound and simple peace. The Buddha taught that we live in a state of perpetual distraction, chasing after pleasant sensations and fleeing from unpleasant ones. He called this dukkha, the stress and unsatisfactoriness inherent in this grasping and avoiding. Our minds are like restless monkeys, swinging from branch to branch of memory and anticipation, rarely landing on the solid ground of now. Solitude, when approached with intention, is the gentle cage that allows the monkey to finally grow still. With fewer external branches to swing to, the mind eventually tires of its own chaos and begins to settle. It starts to notice the ground. It starts to notice the breath. It starts to notice the sheer miracle of being alive in this instant. This peace is not an exciting peace. It is not the thrill of a new purchase or the euphoria of a social triumph. It is a quiet, deep, and pervasive sense of okayness. It is the peace of the sky that holds both clouds and sunshine without preference. In your garden, you can practice becoming this sky. Start with your breath. Simply feel the cool air entering your nostrils, the gentle expansion of your ribs, the warm air leaving your body. Your mind will wander. That's what minds do. The practice is not to stop the wandering, but to notice it has wandered, and with immense kindness, to guide your attention back to the breath. Each return is a repetition of a gentle, powerful mantra: I am here. I am now. This is the foundational Buddhist meditation of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. From the breath, you can expand your awareness. Feel the air on your skin. Listen to the subtle sounds of your environment. The hum of appliances, the distant traffic, the sound of your own heartbeat in your ears. Look at the objects around you without labeling or judging them. Just see their color, their shape, the way light falls on them. You are training your mind to perceive reality directly, without the constant commentary of your thoughts. In this direct perception, a deep quiet emerges. The problems don't necessarily vanish, but your relationship to them changes. They become part of the landscape of the present moment, not monsters from the past or future. I remember a period of great uncertainty in my own life. I was between jobs, and the future was a fog of possibilities, each one tinged with fear. I would spend hours mentally rehearsing conversations, catastrophizing outcomes, living everywhere but in my small apartment. One afternoon, exhausted by my own mental drama, I simply lay down on the floor. I stopped trying to figure anything out. I just stared at the ceiling, noticing the tiny cracks in the plaster, the play of shadow from a tree outside the window. I felt the pressure of the floor against my back. I listened to the sound of my own breathing. For perhaps 20 minutes, I did nothing but be a witness to that room, in that moment. And in that simple act of witnessing, the anxiety lost its grip. The problems were still there, but they were no longer me. I was the spacious, calm awareness that contained them. That experience was a direct taste of the peace the Buddha described, the peace that is not dependent on circumstances, but is the fundamental nature of a mind that has stopped chasing and resisting. This is the gift your solitude offers you, the space to practice being the quiet observer of your own life. You don't need a meditation retreat. You just need a few minutes of turning off the screens, putting down the book, and intentionally resting in the sensory reality of your immediate experience. Wash the dishes and feel the warm water. Drink the tea and taste only the tea. In these mundane acts, performed with full attention, you will find a sanctuary of peace more restorative than any vacation. So, in your garden, practice sitting on the bench. Practice just being. Let the world be exactly as it is. Let yourself be exactly as you are. In that allowance, a profound peace is revealed. It was never something to be found, it was always the ground upon which you were standing. You just needed the quiet to notice it. As we sit in the peace of the present moment, let's turn our attention to another truth of your garden. Look around. You will see life in all its stages. New green shoots pushing through the soil, flowers in full and glorious bloom, leaves that are fading to gold, and perhaps even a fallen branch returning to the earth. Nothing here is static. Everything is in a gentle, constant state of flow. This is the heart of the Buddha's teaching on anicca, impermanence. All conditioned things arise and pass away. And your conscious solitude is the perfect place to make peace with this fundamental law, not as a source of sorrow, but as the very engine of your growth. When you live closely with your own thoughts and the rhythms of a quiet life, you become a keen observer of change. You notice how your mood shifts from morning to evening like light across the floor. You see how a worry that felt monumental at noon can soften and dissolve by dusk. You witness projects begin, evolve, and complete. You feel relationships change, sometimes deepening, sometimes fading. In the constant company of others, we can buffer ourselves from these observations, distracting ourselves from life's transient nature. But in solitude, we are brought face to face with it. This can initially feel unsettling, even frightening. We want things to be solid, predictable, and permanent. But the garden, like the Buddha, whispers a different truth. It is in the flowing, the changing, the releasing, that life renews itself. Your resilience is not built by finding a rock to hide behind, but by learning to be the water that flows around every stone. Think of a smooth, weathered stone in a riverbed. It was once a jagged piece of rock. But through years, decades, centuries of the river's persistent, gentle flow, its hard edges have been worn away. It hasn't been destroyed, it has been transformed. It has become something more harmonious, more integrated with its environment. The challenges you face in life, the disappointments, the losses, the periods of uncertainty that are often felt most acutely when you are alone, are that river. Your practice of mindful awareness, your rootedness, your inner peace, these are the qualities that allow you to be shaped by the flow, not shattered by it. You learn to yield, to adapt, to let go of rigid forms, and in doing so, you become smoother, wiser, more at ease with the current of life. This is not passive acceptance of hardship. It is active engagement with reality. The Buddha's path is one of wise effort. It involves recognizing what you can change, your reactions, your attitudes, and what you cannot, the inevitable changes of life itself, and directing your energy with skillful precision. In solitude, you have the clarity to make these distinctions. A difficult feeling arises. Can you change the external trigger? Perhaps not. Can you change your relationship to the feeling? Absolutely. That is your domain of power. Each time you meet a storm in your inner weather with awareness instead of panic, you are letting the river smooth your edges. You are growing. I want to tell you about a woman named Maya. Maya was a dancer whose entire identity was woven into her physical art. In her mid-30s, a chronic injury ended her career permanently. The loss was devastating. In the painful, forced solitude of her recovery, she grappled with a terrifying question: if I am not a dancer, who am I? For months, she felt like a shattered piece of rock. But in the quiet, With nowhere else to run, she began to write. She wrote about the grief, the memories of her body in motion, the silence of the studio. Slowly, the writing became less about what was lost and more about what was being discovered, a voice, a new way of expressing beauty. The river of loss was wearing away her old, rigid identity, revealing a new form beneath. Today, Maya is a celebrated writer on embodiment and creativity. She often says, "The injury didn't break me. It dissolved the container I was living in. The solitude gave me the space to discover I was the water inside, not the container." Maya's journey is a profound lesson in anicca. She didn't just survive change, she was transformed by it, because in her solitude, she had the space to feel the full current of it without fighting, and to discover what lay on the other side of the letting go. So, in your garden, honor the cycles. Watch the leaves fall without rushing to sweep them away. Feel the chill of autumn and know it will give way to spring. When a difficult change visits your life, see if you can, even for a moment, stop resisting the flow. Be the weathered stone. Trust that the river of experience is not your enemy, but your sculptor. Your solitude is the quiet riverbank where this sacred, sometimes challenging, always transformative work takes place. It is where you learn that growth is not always about adding more, but often about allowing the old to fall away, making space for the new life waiting beneath. Let's now turn our gaze outward from the heart of your garden. You have cultivated deep roots, found peace in the present, and learned to flow with change. From this place of inner abundance, something beautiful and natural begins to occur. You feel a pull, not of neediness, but of warmth. You feel the desire to share the peace you found, to connect. This brings us to a beautiful paradox of the path. That through fully embracing solitude, we rediscover connection in its truest, most potent form. We realize we are not isolated islands, but that our individual gardens are interconnected by a vast, invisible network of roots and mycelium, whispering beneath the surface of the visible world. The Buddha placed immense importance on Sangha, community. But the health of the community depends on the health of the individuals within it. If you come to others desperate for them to fill your emptiness, the relationship becomes a transaction, a pressure. It is fragile. But if you come to others from a garden that is already thriving, from a cup that is already full, the connection changes. It becomes a gift, a celebration, an act of sharing overflow. Your solitude has given you the gift of filling your own cup. Now, you can genuinely connect for the joy of connection itself, not for what you can extract from it. Think of your quiet time as the necessary silence between musical notes. It is that silence that gives the notes their shape, their meaning, their beauty. If the music were one continuous, loud noise, it would be unbearable. The spaces are essential. In the same way, your conscious alone time is the fertile silence that makes your moments of connection rich, clear, and meaningful. When you are with others, you are truly with them. You are not half present, distracted by your own unmet needs or inner chaos. You can listen deeply. You can offer your full attention. This quality of presence is the greatest gift you can give another human being. It is a direct application of the Buddhist principle of right mindfulness and right speech, being fully present and communicating with care. Furthermore, from the clarity of your garden, you become more discerning about which connections to nurture. You are no longer governed by loneliness or habit. You are drawn to people whose spirit resonates with your own, whose presence feels like sunlight on your leaves, not like a storm tearing at your branches. You learn to set gentle but firm boundaries, not as walls, but as garden gates. They define your sacred space and allow you to choose who enters with respect. This discernment is an act of profound self-respect and respect for the sacredness of relationship. I knew a man named Samuel, a woodworker who spent most of his days in the quiet solitude of his workshop, the air fragrant with sawdust and linseed oil. He loved his alone time, the focus it allowed. But every Friday evening, without fail, he would host a simple supper in his home. The invitation was open to a small circle. There was no elaborate agenda, just good food, quiet music, and deep conversation. People cherished these evenings. They said that in Samuel's presence, they felt truly heard, completely accepted. Samuel was able to offer that quality of listening because he had spent the week listening to himself, to the grain of the wood, to his own thoughts, to the silence. He came to those gatherings not to get anything, but to share the peaceful, attentive presence he had cultivated. His solitude was not a rejection of community, it was the very practice that made him a pillar of it. He embodied the ideal that our inner work is never selfish, it is the foundation of our capacity to serve and love others well. Your solitude, therefore, is not the end of your social life, it is its renewal. It allows you to move from needing people to appreciating them. From this place, you can engage in communities, a book club, a volunteer group, an online forum, with a spirit of contribution, not consumption. You can reach out to an old friend from a place of genuine curiosity, not obligation. Your relationships become like companion plants in a garden, each supporting the other's growth without enmeshment or competition. So, look out from your garden with soft eyes. See the invisible threads that connect you to all living things. Your practice of being comfortably, joyfully alone does not sever those threads, it strengthens them by ensuring you are sending a strong, clear, and steady signal. You connect from wholeness. And in doing so, you help create a world where connection is based not on lack, but on the mutual recognition of the sacred, peaceful garden that exists within every single being. Let us now venture to a quiet corner of your garden where the light is clear and the air is still. Here, we encounter one of the most precious gifts that sustained solitude bestows, the quiet, unwavering voice of your own inner wisdom. In the constant din of the world, the opinions of others, the clamor of advertising, the relentless stream of social media, this voice is often drowned out. We look outside ourselves for answers, for validation, for direction. We follow maps drawn by other hands. But in the sanctuary of your own company, the external noise fades, and you begin to hear a different guidance system. It is not loud or commanding. It is a gentle knowing, a deep sense of yes or no in the pit of your being. This is your inner compass, and learning to trust it is a supreme act of spiritual maturity aligned with the Buddha's call to be a lamp unto yourself. The Buddha did not ask for blind faith. He said, "Come and see." His teachings, the Dharma, are a guide, but the ultimate authority on your path must be your own direct experience and understanding. This is the essence of prajna, wisdom or discernment. Your time alone is your laboratory for developing prajna. It is where you can test teachings against the reality of your own life, where you can sit with a decision until the right path becomes clear not from logic alone, but from a felt sense of alignment in your heart and body. You learn to distinguish between the voice of fear, which is often loud and frantic, and the voice of wisdom, which is calm and steady. This compass guides you in all things, great and small. It tells you when to speak and when to remain silent. It tells you which commitments nourish your soul and which deplete it. It helps you discern between a genuine opportunity for growth and a mere distraction dressed up as one. When you live with others, this compass can become confused, its needle spinning under the magnetic pull of their desires, expectations, and judgments. In solitude, you recalibrate it to your own true north. You ask yourself, not, what should I do, but, what feels most authentic and alive for me? This is not selfishness. It is integrity. Living from this inner authority creates a life of congruence, where your actions are in harmony with your deepest values. This harmony, in itself, is a profound source of peace. I think of a woman named Clara, a highly successful corporate lawyer. For years, she lived by an external compass, the benchmarks of partnership, the size of her bonus, the approval of senior partners. She was celebrated, but she felt hollow. She began taking solo hiking trips on the weekends, long walks in the mountains with no agenda. In that physical and mental solitude, away from the buzz of the city and the expectations of her role, she began to hear a different narrative. The quiet voice didn't care about billable hours. It spoke of creativity, of helping people in a more direct way, of having time to watch seasons change. It was a faint whisper at first, almost frightening in its deviation from her life's script. But she kept returning to the silence, and the voice grew clearer. It took years, but eventually, she left her law firm. She now runs a small non-profit that provides legal aid to artists, and she herself has taken up pottery. Her income is smaller, but her life is immeasurably richer. The mountains didn't give me the answer, she said. They just gave me the silence I needed to hear the answer I already had. Clara learned to trust her inner compass, and it led her home to herself. Cultivating this trust is a daily practice in your garden. It starts with small choices. What do you truly feel like eating? What book calls to you? Do you accept that invitation out of joy, or out of obligation? Each time you pause, check in with that inner sense, and act from its guidance, you strengthen the muscle of self-trust. You are practicing the Buddhist principle of right intention, ensuring your actions spring from wisdom and compassion, not from blind habit or external pressure. This inner compass also becomes your guide in spiritual matters. You can read all the scriptures, listen to all the teachers, but in the end, you must know for yourself what is true. Your solitude is the space for that personal verification. Does this teaching resonate? Does this practice bring more peace, more clarity, more kindness into my life? Your own experience is the final arbiter. This is the path to a faith that is not brittle, but resilient, a faith built on the bedrock of your own knowing. So, in the clear light of your garden, sit quietly and listen. Listen beneath the thoughts. Feel for the gentle pull, the quiet knowing. Consult your inner compass before you consult the world. Trust that you carry within you an infallible guide to your own right life. The more you trust it, the more confidently you can walk your unique path, and the more authentically you can contribute your gifts to a world that deeply needs people who are not echoes, but clear, true voices. Now, let us settle into the very center of your garden, where the air is still and the light seems to emanate from within the leaves themselves. We have built, explored, and listened. We have found stability, freedom, and inner guidance. From this place of profound inner fullness, a final, beautiful transformation naturally unfolds. The walls of the garden, which once felt necessary for protection and definition, begin to feel less like barriers and more like permeable membranes. The love and peace you have cultivated within no longer wish to be contained. They seek to flow outward. This is the birth of karuna, compassion, and metta. Loving kindness, not as an obligation, but as the inevitable overflow of a heart that has made peace with itself. The Buddha's teachings are a path from suffering to the end of suffering, not just for oneself, but for all beings. This can seem like a monumental, even impossible task. But it begins right here, in the alchemy of your solitude. You see, you cannot truly offer compassion to others if you are at war with yourself. You cannot hold space for another's pain if you are frantically avoiding your own. Your journey of being alone is, at its core, the process of making friends with your entire experience, your joy, your sorrow, your fear, your loneliness. You have been practicing metta on the most immediate subject, you. You have been learning to say, "May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering." And in doing so, you have softened your own heart. A softened heart is not a weak heart. It is a strong, spacious, and resilient heart. It is a heart that can contain the complexities of life without breaking. From this spaciousness within your own garden, your perspective shifts. You begin to see your own struggles not as unique personal failures, but as part of the universal human condition. That late-night anxiety, that pang of regret, that longing for connection, these are not yours alone. They are the shared inheritance of a conscious being. In your solitude, you touch the common ground of feeling. And from this place, compassion for others arises naturally, spontaneously. When you hear of another's difficulty, you no longer feel pity from a distance. You feel a resonance. You recognize the same cloud of suffering that has passed through your own sky. Your wish for their peace becomes as immediate and genuine as your wish for your own. This is the foundation of the Bodhisattva ideal in Buddhism. The being who vows to attain enlightenment for the sake of all others. This compassion becomes active intelligence. It's not a vague, sentimental feeling. It is a clear-eyed, warm-hearted responsiveness. Because you are not desperate for connection, you can see what kind of connection is actually needed. Sometimes it is a listening ear. Sometimes it is practical help. Sometimes it is respectful distance. Your inner clarity allows you to discern the most skillful response. You help not to feel needed, but because help is the natural expression of a connected heart. I remember an elderly neighbor I had, Mr. Jacobs. He lived alone, had few visitors, and spent his days in quiet routines. He seemed the picture of solitary contentment. But he was also the first person to notice if a trash can had been tipped over, the first to have a tool to lend, the first to leave a bag of excess tomatoes from his small patio garden at a neighbor's door. He did this all quietly, without fanfare. One day, I thanked him for his kindness. He smiled gently and said, "When you sit with yourself long enough, you stop seeing a difference between your peace and the peace of the street you live on. Tending to one is tending to the other." Mr. Jacob's solitude had not isolated him, it had dissolved the imaginary boundary between his inner garden and the wider world. His compassion was the natural radiation of his inner stillness. In your garden, you can consciously cultivate this boundless heart. After your meditation, you can practice the formal metta meditation, systematically extending wishes of well-being, to yourself, to a loved one, to a neutral person, to a difficult person, and finally to all beings everywhere. You will feel your heart stretching, becoming more capacious. But more informally, you can simply carry the intention of kindness into your day. Let your actions, however small, be guided by the question, what would kindness do here? When you are full, this question arises from a place of abundance, not depletion. So, let your garden's peace ripple outward. Let the walls become symbolic. The love you have nurtured in solitude does not belong to you alone, it is an energy that seeks to connect, to heal, to unify. Your quiet time is the sacred process of filling your own well so that you may offer a clean, clear drink to a thirsty world. In tending to your own heart with such care, you become a sanctuary not just for yourself, but, in time, for all who cross your path. We have walked a long and gentle path together through the landscape of your own being. We began by stepping into the garden of solitude, wary of the quiet. We learned to sit with the uninvited guests of loneliness and fear, offering them compassion until they revealed themselves as teachers. We sank roots of self-reliance, discovered the freedom of our own authentic voice, and found a profound peace in the simple act of being present. We allowed the river of change to smooth our edges, learned to connect from a place of wholeness, trusted our inner compass, and felt our hearts expand with a compassion that knows no boundary. Now, as our journey together draws to a close, we arrive at a place both simple and profound, the return. This is not a return to where we started. You cannot unsee the depths of your own garden. You cannot unknow the peace that resides in your own breath. This is the return of integration. It is the moment when the practice of solitude ceases to be a separate activity, something you do, and seamlessly becomes the way you are in the world. The lines blur. The garden is no longer just a metaphor for your quiet time, your entire life becomes the garden. Every moment, whether alone or with others, becomes an opportunity for mindful tending, for compassionate observation, for wise response. This is the embodiment of the Buddha's path. It is awakening not as a distant, mystical event, but as a manner of moving through an ordinary day with extraordinary presence. Think of a master potter who has spent decades at the wheel. Eventually, they no longer think about centering the clay, about the pressure of their hands, about the speed of the wheel. Their knowledge is in their bones, in their breath. The art and the artist are one. In the same way, the insights you have cultivated in solitude, mindfulness, equanimity, kindness, become your natural posture. Waiting in line at the market becomes a chance to feel your feet on the ground and observe the play of human life around you. A difficult conversation becomes an exercise in deep listening and speaking from the heart, not from reactivity. Cooking a meal, washing a dish, walking to your door, each is infused with a sacred attention. The sacred is no longer confined to a meditation cushion, it is woven into the fabric of the mundane. This is the true meaning of a spiritual life, not escaping the world, but infusing the world with awareness. Your relationship to solitude itself transforms. It is no longer a state to be sought or endured, but a quality you carry within you. You can be in a crowd and still feel the serene, grounded solitude of your own conscious presence. You can be deeply engaged in a relationship while still honoring the sacred, inviolable sanctuary of your own inner being. You carry your garden with you. Its peace is portable. Its silence is an inner resource that is never depleted. This is the ultimate freedom. To be unshakably at home within yourself, regardless of the external circumstances. Let me leave you with one final story, a simple one. There was a woman who lived in a bustling city. She practiced meditation daily in a small corner of her apartment. For years, she thought of this corner as her peace, and the city outside as the chaos. One morning, after a particularly deep and quiet sitting, she went to buy groceries. The streets were loud, the market was crowded. But as she walked, she noticed something different. She felt the same spacious, observing awareness that she felt on her cushion. The honking cars were just sounds. The jostle of the crowd was just sensation. The vibrant colors of the produce were just beauty. The boundary between the peace of the corner and the life of the street had dissolved. She was not bringing peace into the chaos. She was realizing that her own aware presence was the peace, and it could contain the whole vibrant, noisy, beautiful scene without being disturbed. She had returned to the world, but she had brought her true home with her. This is the integration. This is the fruit of your courageous journey into being alone. You have not created something new. You have uncovered something ancient and timeless within you, your own Buddha nature, your own capacity for clear, calm, compassionate awareness. So, as you move forward from this time together at Monk's Temple, carry this knowing. You are the gardener of your own peace. You are the sanctuary you have been seeking. The path of conscious solitude, inspired by the Buddha's timeless wisdom, leads to this one great truth: everything you need is already here, within the boundless space of your own awake heart. Your task is not to achieve, but to remember. Not to acquire, but to allow. Not to become someone else, but to be fully, radiantly, peacefully yourself. Thank you for walking this path with me. May the peace of your own garden dwell in you always. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. This concludes our journey.